Señoras y señores, bienvenidos.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 66th Annual Meeting of the Boards of Governors of the Inter-American Development Bank and the 40th Annual Meeting of the Board of Governors of the Inter-American Investment Corporation, IDB Invest. The first part of the meeting will be chaired by the outgoing chairperson of the Boards of Governors of the Bank and of the Corporation, the Governor for the Republic of Chile, Juan Pablo Rodriguez. In addition, at the head table, we have Ilan Goldfein, President of the Inter-American Development Bank and President of the Board of Executive Directors of the Inter-American Investment Corporation. Jordan Schwartz, Executive Vice President of the bank. James Scriven, CEO of the IIC. Graham McMillan, CEO of IDB Lab. And Gerardo Corrochano, Secretary of the meetings of the boards of the bank and of the corporation. Up next, I will turn the floor over to the chairperson of the Board of Governors of the bank and the corporation, Governor Juan Pablo Rodriguez. Governors, seeing as we have the necessary quorum, I would like to call to order the inaugural session of the annual meetings of the Boards of Governors of the bank and of the corporation. On behalf of all governors, I wish to thank the Republic of Paraguay, and a special thanks to Asunción for the warm welcome. As outgoing chairperson of the Boards of Governors of the bank and the corporation, I would like to share information on the work done since the last annual meetings. I would like to give a very special thanks to the Republic of Paraguay and its warm people, and I would like to do that through the Minister of Economy and Finance, Mr. Valavinos. Take this opportunity to also thank him for this great annual gathering. Ilan Goldfein, President of the Inter-American Development Bank, esteemed governors, vice presidents, representatives of the IDB Group, representatives of member countries, ladies and gentlemen. It is an honor for Chile to address you at this opening session of the 66th meeting of the Board of Governors of the IDB and 40th meeting of the Board of Governors of the Inter-American Investment Corporation. In my capacity as outgoing chair of the Board of Governors, I would like to express our sincere gratitude to you, to all member countries, for your trust in my country, Chile, to carry out this responsibility over the past year. It has been a privilege to support the work of this board in advancing the IDB Group's work agenda. During this period, it has been our role to facilitate dialogue among member countries, supporting consensus building, and advance the work agenda agreed upon by the governors at the Santiago meetings. In this context, the governors reaffirmed the strategic shift previously agreed to in Punta Cana and explicitly shifted the discussion to move from what to the how. How to scale up the group's action, how to guarantee impact, how to modernize lending instruments without weakening governance. This agenda has been marked by concrete efforts to strengthen the IDB Group's capacity, expand its impact, and adapt its instruments to the structural challenges facing our region. Among this year's key achievements are the governance reforms and the strengthening of the group's financial and lending instruments. In particular, significant progress has been made in developing and refining instruments designed to support policy reforms, improving their quality to achieve greater impact. I would like to particularly commend the significant progress made in consolidating the bank's private sector arm, as reflected in the successful capital increase of IDB Invest, with 98% of shares subscribed to date, and in the launch of the new MIF 4. We are very optimistic that the process of implementing private sector strengthening will be even more successful. This work reflects the broad support of member countries for the central role that the private sector must play in advancing growth, investment, and the creation of quality jobs. Throughout this year, as the chair of this meeting, Chile has sought to contribute to this process by facilitating opportunities for dialogue and promoting consensus building among member countries, always coordinating closely with the Office of the Secretary and the Board of Executive Directors. This joint effort has made substantial progress possible on the bank's shared agenda. It is building on these advances in progress that we must also think about looking to the future. Our region currently faces a complex global landscape, one marked by persistent structural challenges with regards to growth, productivity, and poverty. In addition to this, we have the impact of natural disasters, rapid technological change, safety and security issues, and an international context that is characterized by growing levels of uncertainty. At the same time, Latin America and the Caribbean have significant opportunities. Our region has comparative advantages in areas such as the energy transition, developing value chains associated with renewable energies, the extraction and processing of critical minerals, and the potential of new industries linked to the knowledge economy. To fully capitalize on these opportunities, we must strengthen our institutions, drive reforms that promote investment and productivity, and move toward greater regional economic integration. In this context, the IDB Group has established itself as a key partner in supporting our countries as they address these challenges from a regional perspective. Its ability to coordinate financing, technical expertise, and opportunities for cooperation make it possible to tackle problems that transcend national borders and advance shared solutions, leveraging economies of scale, shared lessons, and a long-term strategic vision. This approach is essential for strengthening resilience, driving structural reforms, and generating sustainable impact in each of our countries. To address current challenges, our countries need strong institutions that can advance fiscal sustainability, responsibly manage public finances, and have greater efficiency in government operations and public spending. And it is in this context that the IDB Group must continue to support countries in strengthening their public policies and institutional frameworks, backing reforms that contribute to greater macroeconomic stability and the conditions necessary for sustainable growth. Chile deeply values the role that the IDB Group has played throughout its history in the development of Latin America and the Caribbean. The government of President José Antonio Castro reiterates its commitment to continue working closely with the bank and to further strengthen the multilateralism that has characterized our country's participation. We are convinced that through joint effort and cooperation among countries, we will be able to advance the development of our nations and sustainably improve the quality of life of our people. As for Chile, we are embarking on a new and promising chapter. The administration of President José Antonio Castro, which took office just 3 days ago, is determined to return to the path that allowed our country to overcome poverty and advance toward development. The path that earned us the respect of the international community, the path that made possible the period of greatest progress in our history, that of respect for the rule of law and economic freedom. In one word, order and freedom. Only 3 days have passed since the start of our term, but we have already taken decisive action to restore our citizens' right to live in peace and to reignite the potential of our economy. These are and will continue to be the two main pillars of our administration. On March 11th, President Jose Antonio Cast and the Finance Minister Jorge Quiros launched our economic agenda, which is based on three pillars. First, regulatory streamlining aimed at removing obstacles for the approval of major investment projects. Second, reducing the tax burden with the goal of regaining competitiveness and promoting the creation of formal jobs. And third, an ambitious but necessary fiscal adjustment. We are going to unleash our country's creative energy. That is the foundation of prosperity. Finally, I would like to state that it's been a great honor for Chile to have chaired the IDB Board of Governors this year. I have no doubt that from this valuable platform and together with the incoming chairperson, we'll continue to work in a spirit of cooperation to help to improve the lives of millions of people in Latin America and the Caribbean. Thank you very much.
Señoras y señores gobernadores,
Governors, I would like to now invite you to elect one of our colleagues to serve as a chairperson of the boards of governors of the bank and of the corporation. In accordance with the regulations of the boards, the governor to be elected will serve as chairperson of the board of governors of the IDB and of the board of governors of the IIC until the next annual meetings of the boards of governors.
tiene la palabra
I offer the floor to the governor for the United States of America, followed by the governor for Argentina, governor for Brazil, and the governor for Panama. Governor?
Chair, in my capacity as the temporary alternate governor for the United States of America, I am pleased to nominate the governor for the Republic of Paraguay, Mr. Carlos Fernandez Valdovinos, to be the incoming governor of the boards of governors of the Inter-American Development Bank and the Inter-American Development Corporation. Con muchísimas gracias.
la gobernadora de Estados Unidos,
Governor of the United States.
gobernador.
Thank you. Governor?
de la Argentina.
Thank you. On behalf of Argentina, it is my pleasure, with great honor, to second the governor for the USA's motion to elect Carlos Fernandez Valdovinos, governor of the Republic of Paraguay, as chairperson of the boards of governors of the Inter-American Development Bank and the Inter-American Investment Corporation.
De governador.
As governor for Brazil, it is my pleasure to also second the United States and reiterate Argentina's support for Mr. Valdovinos as chairperson of the boards of governors.
Mi calidad de
As governor for Panama, it is my pleasure to support the motion advanced by the governor for the United States of America, seconded by the governor of Argentina and the governor of Brazil, and I suggest that the election of Mr. Carlos Fernandez Valavinos as chairperson of the Board of Governors of the Inter-American Development Bank and the Inter-American Investment Corporation be carried forward by acclamation.
Señoras y señores
Governors, the governor for the United States of America has nominated the governor for the Republic of Paraguay, Carlos Fernandez Valavinos, to serve as chairperson of the boards of governors of the bank and the corporation. The governors of Argentina and Brazil have seconded said nomination. The governor for Panama has suggested that the election be conducted by acclamation.
Señoras,
Ladies and gentlemen, as a result, the governor for the Republic of Paraguay, Carlos Fernandez Valdovinos, has been hereby elected by acclamation to serve as chairperson of the boards of governors of the bank and of the corporation. I now invite the newly elected chairperson of the boards of governors to join me here at the podium.
Ponerse de pie.
We would ask you to stand to receive the President of the Republic of Paraguay, His Excellency Santiago Peña Palacios, accompanied by the President of the Inter-American Development Bank, Mr. Ilan Golfain.
A continuación,
I now call upon the new chair of the Boards of Governors of the Bank and the Corporation, Mr. Carlos Fernandez Baldovino, to address the audience. Mr. Chairman, you have the floor.
excelentísimo
Santiago Peña, President of Paraguay, Ilan, President of the IDB Group, directors, staff of the IDB Group, governors, heads of delegation of the bank and of the corporation, ambassadors, members of the diplomatic corps, executive directors of the bank and of the corporation, members of senior management of the IDB Group, authorities, colleagues, ministers, representatives of international organizations, ladies and gentlemen. It is a great honor for me to chair this annual meeting, and I say that with the conviction of one who has experienced from close by as president of the central bank and now as Minister of the Finance. I know what it means to work with the IDB Group as strategic partners. That is why receiving governors here in Asunción is something that makes us proud, and also it is a tribute to that important relationship. I especially wanted to thank the countries who placed their trust in Paraguay, that asked us for the third time in the history of the IDB to host this annual meeting. And I want to thank management of the IDB Group, especially its president, Ilan. I thank you for the work done by this organization in a moment of history where the institution takes on greater importance. And we bring, or the bank brings, very valuable assets that place us in a privileged position. We have natural resources. We have a key position in global food security. We have a cleaner energy matrix in the rest of the world, and we have great potential to become involved in new value chains. So we are part of the answer to global challenges. And this is the truth. This is not something we're making up. It's also true that during the past decade, we grew less than other regions. And when growth is insufficient, when it's unequal, what is lacking is not only GDP percentage. What is truly important is what is behind the numbers: the lack of employment, the lack of opportunity, and of a decent future for millions of people. And consequently, the key challenge for this region is a single one: to translate the potential that we currently have into realities. That means sustained growth, it means productive investment, and true well-being for all of our citizens. Historically, there was always a shared challenge across all of our countries. In the past, we were quite similar economically, socially. And in looking back at our economic history, in 1965, that was the first year when meetings were held here in Asunción. What we saw back then in the region was a per capita income quite similar across all the countries. Data showed us a low level of development, and that required support to governments, support for financing our basic infrastructure. That would be roads, or to improve sanitation, water supply, to improve the life for many of our citizens. In the case of Paraguay, and that is something you can see here in our Museum of the Economy, we got in 1961 our first loan from the IDB, and it was to develop the urban area of the city that we call Ciudad del Este. And clearly that was a loan that was made to the government. Now, today, our realities are quite different. The region has grown. It is more developed, but unfortunately, not all countries have followed the same course. Right now, the country with the highest per capita income is 20 times higher in income than the country with the lowest income. But 60 years ago, the difference between the highest and the lowest GDPs in the region was only 10 times. So we're a region where there has been increased in our economic and social heterogeneity. And that automatically means that we have greater heterogeneity in challenges and needs in the countries. Now, allow me to tell you a bit about Paraguay. We can share our experience where we have been following the track of development. Our per capita GDP is 6 times greater than it was in 1960. But this has not been the miracle of Paraguay. No, it was the result of hard work, with the conviction that we were always doing the right thing. For decades, we maintained our fiscal discipline when doing so was not popular. We defended monetary stability when the short term was tempting us to do something different. We strengthened our institutions when it would have been easier to not do so. And what happened? In June of 2024, Moody gave us investment grade for the first time in our history. In December of 2025, Standard & Poor's did the same. These are 2 global credit agencies that recognize decades of constant work, opening up much more competitive financial conditions in both local and foreign currency, not only for our government, but also for our business sector. But this is not the most valuable result of those efforts. The most valuable result of everything we did is that during the last 20 years, we have allowed our poor population to be cut from 50% to 20%. And that is the way that Paraguay, just like other countries who followed a similar path, is currently in quite a different position, different from where we were when we hosted these meetings 61 years ago. And consequently, we need to continue with a strategic partnership with the IDB Group and with other multilaterals too, but now in a plan that is 2-0. That means that Uruguay has a clear rule of 3 for 1. What do I mean by that? The IDB portfolio in Paraguay, the IDB portfolio with the private sector has to be 3 times the portfolio value with the public sector. That is something that we clearly understand. The impact of the work done by the IDB Group in Paraguay is now felt differently. Used to, headlines said, IDB supports Paraguay with financing for infrastructure. And just a few days ago, the headline read, IDB Invest is going to support the private sector with $1 billion per year. And that is the headline that we want to see across all of the newspapers. But this process was not immediate. Our experience of the IDB supporting the private sector has evolved, just like the economy of our country. In 1961, the second loan that we received was for our public bank, the National Banco Nacional de Fomento, the National Development Bank, and it was to finance the Mennonite colonies in El Chaco, and it was backed by a sovereign guarantee. Now, from then until now, the IDB has developed new financing mechanisms, and right now we have Paraguayan companies that are receiving financing directly through IDB Invest without requiring government guarantees. These are loans for PPP infrastructure projects, to finance SMEs, to invest in forests, etc. So what is clear in our mind is that to reach the social and economic goals we have set for ourselves, we need the IDB Group to provide us with resources for more infrastructure, more regional integration. In other words, the usual list, but especially providing funds so as to bail in more private investment. So we need the IDB to continue to deepen its transformation so as to measure up to these new demands. Today, Paraguay is an example that when the macroeconomic framework is sound and when there's leadership of the private sector, growth and development are possible. And that is precisely the IDB's model needed by this region. And it has to be replicated not only on a greater scale, but it needs to be replicated much more quickly. That's the challenge that faces the IDB Group. A bank with scale, a bank with nimbleness, a bank with speed, and consequently a bank having impact. The IDB strategy plus and the reforms that have been implemented in recent years reflect an institution that is being transformed following a clear objective, more impact from the operations, better able to support the structural reforms done by countries, and they are on the right path. This annual meeting in Asunción is an important turning point. This is the time to consolidate those achievements, to scale them up, and to call for greater agility, greater speed. IDB Invest is currently a key part of that transformation. The model implemented has proven itself to be viable and also attractive to private investors, with record results in 2025 confirming that we are on the right path. The news of the progress made on capital increase, capitalization, is essential so that that model can be deployed fully and multiply the impact of the IDB Group across the entire region. The capital increase of capital and IDB Invest, the new financial instruments, the work done between the three arms of the group are not technical reforms. These are strategic decisions that this annual meeting has the opportunity to support with conviction, consolidating a stronger institution for the next few years. The opportunities that lie ahead are concrete. Energy transition places us as strategic suppliers of clean energy and critical minerals. The digital transformation can redefine productivity, trade, and financial inclusion of millions of persons. And a deeper regional integration in transportation and energy, in connectivity, can multiply and boost the competitiveness of all of Latin America. The IDB has a key role to assure that these opportunities will become a reality. In Paraguay, our vision is shared with the IDB Group. We believe in the importance of public investment for regional integration, but we also are convinced that mobilizing resources for the private sector is currently critical so that finally Latin America and the Caribbean can assume leadership in both innovation and productivity. Ladies and gentlemen, financial institutions always talk in numbers. They talk about growth, investment, productivity, GDP. But development really does not take place on a spreadsheet. Development occurs if a mother finds a first formal job, if a young person sets up a company and his company is able to export for the first time, when a small community has permanent access to electricity, water, or access to the internet. Development is something that is tremendously complex, but at the same time, it's very simple. It is defined as a possibility for a child born today in Latin America being able to take advantage of more opportunities than his or her parents. It's that clear, it's that easy, and it's there where development stops being a mere word and turns into a future. The decisions that we make here at this annual meeting on capitalization, on financial instruments, on the role of the bank are decisions that are going to determine whether or not millions of people in this region will have more opportunities to live better. 61 years ago, this annual meeting met for the first time in Asunción. Paraguay was a very different country. And 60 years later, if you look back over the IDB's history, a person could say that during those years we were able to adapt so as to assure greater dynamism for the development of our country. And no longer are we talking about potential. We're now turning potential into prosperity. The government, the private sector, the IDB Group contribute to a future of greater stability and greater well-being for all of our citizens. In 1959, Charles Darwin, the British scientist, said that it's not the strongest species that survives, nor the most intelligent, but those that better adapt to change. And that applies to species, but it also applies to multilateral organizations. So it's in that spirit that I welcome all of you to Paraguay to participate in the annual meetings of the Inter-American Development Bank and the Inter-American Investment Corporation. Thank you.
Ahora tengo el agrado de invitar.
I now have the pleasure of inviting President Ilan Goldfein, President of the Inter-American Development Bank and Chairman of the Board of Executive Directors of the IIC, to take the floor.
Excelentísimo señor
Your Excellency Santiago Peña, President of the Republic of Paraguay, Carlos Fernandez Valdovinos, Chairman of the Boards of Governors of the Bank and the Corporation, and now also our Governor for the Republic of Paraguay, and also Chairman of the Boards, Governors and Heads of Delegation of the Bank and the Corporation, Ambassadors, members of the Diplomatic Corps, Executive Directors of the Bank and Corporation, members of the Senior Administration, Senior Management rather, of the IDB Group, representatives of international organizations, ladies and gentlemen. A very good afternoon to everyone. It is a pleasure to be here in Paraguay and begin our annual meetings in Asunción, a city that President Peña himself has rightly called Mother of Cities, which reflects its rich history. We have come here to discuss development, growth, and integration at a decisive moment for the region. And where better to do this than in Paraguay, and in particular here in Asunción. On behalf of the IDB Group, I thank the government of Paraguay for its hospitality, something you have all already felt. And also for the commitment shown to ensure this annual meeting is successful. Since we arrived here in Asunción, we have felt at home. Paraguay welcomed us warmly, but also with a clear message. With stability, discipline, and a vision, the results are delivered. Not that long ago, the coach of the Paraguayan team said, "We hunt for impossible utopias." I like that. And that's because in development, we also hunt for targets that seem to be distant utopias. For example, how do you escape the middle income trap? How do you grow in a sustained way for decades? How do you eradicate poverty? How do you fully integrate the region? And how do you become an example for the world? Development is actually precisely that. It is finding what is impossible possible. I like that more. Paraguay is proof of that. Over the last few years, as Carlos said, the country received 2 investment grade ratings, and it is about to receive its 3rd. This is no minor shift. This reflects macroeconomic stability that is sustained, stronger institutions, and credible economic management. The risk premium had one of the biggest drops in the last few years, and now it's among the 5 lowest in Latin America. That reduces costs and increases confidence and trust in investors. But that did not happen overnight. That is the result of years of hard work. We saw improved fiscal management, a renewed commitment to fiscal rules, a modernization of economic institutions, and that is the work, and that is what was behind of these results. And this turns into what people care about. The economy grew a notable 6% last year, and unemployment closed at the end of the year at 3.6%, which is one of the lowest levels over the last few years, and poverty decreased to close to 20%. And this is what happens when you have a country with discipline. Paraguay, as we heard, is a historic partner of the IDB Group. We have celebrated over 60 years of work together. But we're here today to also talk about the next chapter, both for Paraguay and for the IDB. This week, we announced that we are expanding our office, the IDB Group office here in Asunción. We already have a fairly hefty team, but we are making progress in securing the adjacent land for future expansion. And that expansion will allow us to work even more closely with the country and be there with the country in this next chapter. It reflects the increasingly important role Paraguay has with the IDB, but also Paraguay's role in regional initiatives. That's what we saw this morning in the Mercosur-EU agreement, as well as our regional programs at the IDB, like South Connection. We also had a session on that today, and that speaks about physical connection, digital connection, and those integrations in the South. We also announced the expansion of our financing program in Paraguay. In the next 2 years, we're going to mobilize 2.7 billion for Paraguay. That's 2 years. And actually, how that's made up is more important than the amount. As our governor said, the chairman of the board, 1 billion a year for IDB Invest. Of the 2.7 billion, 2 billion over the next couple of years will be coming from IDB Invest, and 700 million more from the public sector side. That, along with the country strategy, but also our group strategy. That strategy actually materializes through concrete projects. And I'll share 2 projects, these major projects with the private sector, just fresh out of the oven. We have a Paracel, really important. This year, Atome, I should say, very important. IDB Invest, the connectivity project of the Bioceanic Corridor that was signed today. The expansion of roads 2 and 7, and we're also exploring improvements of Road 1, energy and strengthening resilience of the power grid, and water and sanitation, the Ipacaraí Lake Basin project, and that's going to benefit 800,000 people. That is impact. I have talked about Paraguay, and I talked about utopias, making the impossible possible. But I do want to say that the IDB Group also goes out looking for its own utopias, and trying to find what is impossible and making it possible in the multilateral world. 2 years ago, in 2024, in the Dominican Republic, during an annual meeting, we launched the capital increase process for IDB Invest, $3.5 billion. We launched the replenishment of IDB Lab, each with a new operating model, a new growth model? Well, what we can say today is that the subscription process for the capital increase has successfully closed. And the same goes for what we call MIF 4, as for IDB Lab. Both have been completed successfully.
En 2025,
In 2025, the IDB Group reached a record 35 billion in financing for Latin America and the Caribbean. And the 35 billion means 50% more than what we were doing in 2022 when we started. The IDB Group grew by half without even seeing the capital increase at that point. Going forward with this record financing, for the public sector arm, for the private sector arm, we are able to mobilize $500 billion over the next 10 years. That's twice what we dispersed in the last decade. But the goal isn't only to finance more. It's not about 500 billion more. What's important is what we do with this money. What's important is to have a bigger impact. That's because scale alone doesn't really reshape economies. Those possible utopias can now find their way into reality in the region. Development increasingly depends on a more strategic effort by the region more embedded in the global economy. That integration is important. This is a time of opportunity, but opportunities don't only turn into growth. It requires being able to leverage opportunities. As we see it, there are three clear opportunities that the region can make the most of and take that lead. The first is driving a private sector-led development. The public sector doesn't have enough funds, and that goes for everywhere on the planet, neither for lending or for borrowing. The public sector cannot close all the gaps. There's a need for private sector investment to increase productivity, bring technology, and increase competition. At the IDB Group, we are positioning the bank as the private sector multilateral development bank that makes the most of the experience, the 66 years close to the public sector to create synergies that can really make it possible to scale impact. Growth, on the one hand, depends on the public sector creating enabling conditions and removing barriers, and on the other hand, the private sector to invest and increase productivity. That is precisely the goal of a program we're launching here during the meetings. That is LAC Crece. That program is a platform that aligns reforms, puts them in the right order, puts private capital first, and is integrated. The second area where there's progress to be made by the region is critical minerals and safe and secured value chains. The technology world is global. We're in a world of AI as well at a global scale. That requires more energy and critical minerals. And that means that Latin America and the Caribbean is at the very center of this new mineral map. Our countries, however, want to go beyond extraction. They want to add value locally through refining and processing. To do what? To create more jobs, create more industrial capacity. And at the same time, it is giving something that is very dear to the world, and these are secured and safe value chains. We launched that here. We actually just had a session where we launched IDB Black Minerals. It brings interests of the region and the world into alignment, and everyone has something to contribute. Latin America and the Caribbean, what's the contribution? It contributes minerals, lithium, copper, iron ore, rare earths. as well as a policy commitment to ensure there is progress made in adding value. What about the world? The world can contribute long-term contracts, advanced technology, more attractive prices, and the right level of financing for large-scale projects, because we are going to have a market that can reach 770 billion by 2040. What can the IDB Group contribute? We bring both together. Latin America and the Caribbean, the world. It provides support for catalytic action. It finances infrastructure. And third point, again, the first is a private sector-led growth. The second, critical minerals. And the third is integration for all who stand ready to make progress. We don't need units around the world. Everyone needs to come together. We need coalitions that take action. South Connection is a clear example. It drives projects like the Bioceanic Corridor, or, for example, our other programs, One Caribbean, American El Centro, Amazonia Forever, or like the session we had here on the EU-Mercosur agreement. Paraguay holds a pro tempore chairmanship of Mercosur. And I'll end with this. The IDB is known as not just a bank, but a friend. And it is a great pleasure for me to be a friend of our member countries, a friend who is close, who stands with you at all times, good times and bad, and times that are okay. But it also needs to be a friend that is loyal, that tells you the truth, that tells you where the challenges are when they're there, and who is by the countries at this time when we need to really leverage these opportunities and turn utopias into concrete results. Let's work together to find those impossible situations, make them possible, turn those utopias into real growth with more jobs and better lives for all of our people. Thank you.
Gracias, presidente.
Thank you very much, President Golfan. It is now my honor to invite the President of the Republic of Paraguay, His Excellency Mr. Santiago Peña Palacios. I invite him to address the audience. Thank you. President of the Inter-American Development Bank, governors, ministers of finance, national authorities, international authorities, representatives of the private sector and of civil society, ladies and gentlemen. It's an honor for the Republic of Paraguay to receive the economic and financial authorities of Latin America and the Caribbean, as well as our international partners. All of that to participate in the annual meeting of the Inter-American Development Bank. Asuncion, friends, was initially a hub for integration. Just as Ilan said, not in vain were we called the wet nurse of peoples and the mother of cities, all back in the colonial period. Now, from the heart of America, the first expeditions departed, founding countless cities across the southern cone. And here, very important ties were created amongst our peoples. And today, once again, we are proud to say that Paraguay can deliver on its historical mission to bring together the peoples of the Americas and be the true heart of financial integrations of Latin America. I wanted to thank the president of the IDB, my friend and a good friend of Paraguay, Mr. Ilan Golfan, and all of the governors from all countries. We are pleased that you trusted us to host this great event. We'll never forget that gesture. And on behalf of my people, I thank you and I welcome you warmly to Paraguay. Trust. I haven't used that word just casually. As you know, on the 9th of March, we celebrated a very special date for everyone who, like me and many of you, uh, became economists. Many of you did the same. And on March 9, 1966, modern economic science was born thanks to Adam Smith and his work, The Wealth of Nations. In that book and in all of his brilliant writings that are a source of knowledge for those currently at the head of their governments, Smith said once and again that trust is the very basis for market and for our most essential institutions. Smith said, society cannot subsist amongst those who are at all times ready to hurt and injure one another. Now, if we live with constant distrust, we wind up in that brutal state of nature of everyone against everyone else. And that means that man cannot be a wolf attacking others. So Adam Smith insisted that first and foremost, order and good governance were required. Now, today we would say in our current lingo that we need to open, transparent, inclusive institutions, something like the markets, the rule of law, or the very state, so as to be able to bring order and especially build trust amongst people. And then based on that trust, human beings can collaborate. They can work together to build a better world, to increase the prosperity of our nations, to increase the wealth of our nations. So your presence here in Paraguay, I'm sorry, is a sign of trust in Paraguay, a country that chose responsibility and institutions providing predictability. Paraguay has learned that that trust can only be created with clear rules, with transparency, respect for commitments, and with a long-term view. Order and good government, ladies and gentlemen, trust, predictability, clear rules, and government policies that are stable are a key. Paraguay, during the last 20 years, have applied many of the lessons taught by that Scottish economist. We have seen that policies uh, have to be seen alongside flexible and modern legal codes and a stable and controlled economy. Trust leads to one point always. It is hard to get there. It requires sacrifice, but this is the only pathway. And thanks to that, we have accomplished results. Paraguay, over recent years, has positioned itself as one of the most attractive sites for investing in Latin America. And that trust is our economic stability. It is our institutional framework. It is our development vision that is reflected in a sustained increase in the number of operations of IDB Invest in Paraguay. The private sector arm of the IDB Group in recent years has committed and mobilized more than $1 billion to finance strategic projects for our development, projects that reinforce our infrastructure, our energy supply, the digital economy, logistics, financial inclusion. And thanks to these investments, we have been able to increase the competitiveness of our country, working with our productive sector and also generating new job opportunities for our fellow citizens. We especially appreciate the fact that this annual meeting is being held here in Paraguay. Not only does that show trust in our countries, but also it shows that Latin America and the Caribbean can project themselves towards the rest of the world with a more sound development agenda. Our region is not meant to just stand aside, but we have to be a key actor on the world stage. To that end, we have to trust, dear friends. We have to trust our infinite potential. We have to trust our greatest capital, which is the people living in these countries. So this region has extraordinary advantages, friends. It has abundant natural resources, a strategic position in terms of global food security, environmental wealth, and tremendous potential in terms of clean energy and critical minerals. But first and foremost, we have our people, young people, hardworking people with legitimate aspirations for progress. And the challenge is to turn that potential into results, to come up with these impossible utopias. And that transformation calls for leadership, sound institutions, consistent public policies, and an environment that is investment friendly, something that promotes innovation and offers opportunities. And the IDB has always stood at the side of Latin America and the Caribbean, making contributions going far beyond financing. The bank brings knowledge, technical cooperation, things that make development possible. So we need a bank that continues to support investment and that strengthens regional integration and that stands by the countries in areas like infrastructure, energy, innovation, connectivity, and modernization of the state. That is why this annual meeting has a meaning that goes far beyond a specific project. It has to do with the future of our region. It is a common vision based on strong institutions, open economies, investment, and growth with opportunities for all. What we need now, ladies and gentlemen, is determination. We have to be determined to increase our productivity, to continue to strengthen our institutions. We need to be determined to integrate our countries better and to present ourselves to the world with even greater confidence. So today we all must make that decision. We must provide order and good governance. We must have sound institutions to improve life in our countries. For Paraguay, I can promise you, friends, that we are ready to take up this effort to assure a better quality of life for our children and our grandchildren. And we will do that with our most important asset, our hearts. So I welcome all of you to Paraguay. Thank you.
Muchas gracias, señor.
Mr. President, thank you very much. We don't have any additional items. We therefore adjourn our meeting and declare the 66th annual meeting of the Board of Governors of the bank and 40th annual meeting of the Board of Governors of the corporation call to order.
De esta forma, damos.
With this, we have concluded our inaugural session. We ask those who are at the head table to please sit in the first row, and everybody else to please remain seated. Up next, we have an artistic presentation that will be delivered by one of the most respected and loved groups, one of the groups that makes us the most proud here in Paraguay. This is the group Tierra Adentro. Tierra Adentro is one of the most successful Paraguayan groups over the last decade. They've been able to fuse traditional rhythms and modern sounds. They're considered the ambassadors of the new folklore of Paraguay. As a matter of fact, there are a lot of children who didn't know what Paraguayan music sounded like, and they started to learn about it and enjoy it thanks to music by this group that will be presenting soon. This group brings the joy and what makes us Paraguayan, our culture, to others in the clothing, the attire, the dances, and the songs. Let me tell you that in 2020, Inland Paraguayans were nominated, or rather, Tierra Adentro group was nominated to Latin Grammys. And they've played at a number of different festivals in different countries in the US, Aruba, Belgium, France, Colombia, and Argentina. They came out in 2014 to try to revive folkloric music in Paraguay and connect all of us to our national roots. Many of you may be wondering why they're called Tierra Adentro, and they were also asked that question. And what they said was that this is a name that pays tribute to the songs that come from the interior of the country. We wish you had an opportunity to stay here for longer and get to see what that feels like by visiting different parts of our country. We have Marimesa, Luis Duarte, Rodrigo Pereira, Beto Barrios, and Ariel Escurra. They have a lot of hit songs. I can talk to you about 3 of them. One is called Viajando Boy. And I don't think there's a single person from Paraguay here who, at some point while on the road, didn't hear this song. This is a song we tend to hear when we are driving to different places. The other is a Fiesta Patronal, another huge hit. And that's because we have important dates and special celebrations in every city. Sometimes we have these big parties. And this is a song that brings together the essence of these different parties. And then lastly, there's a well-known song that we all like very much. It's called Sapucay. And I would imagine that many of you, while you were in Paraguay, learned a few words in our language, Guarani, in Baeshapa, in Lohaihu, perhaps, but the name of the song means a cry, but not crying out of fear, crying for a drive to deliver the fight and to bring about hope. And so I hope that you can feel that in this song. And so in just a few minutes, we're going to welcome the group. I hope you enjoy it very much and enjoy it at least as much as we love our group, Tierra Adentro.
Hola familia, les queremos presentar Koanga, canciones que nacen como una invitación a frenar, a respirar y a habitar este instante. En un mundo que siempre nos empuja hacia adelante, estas canciones queremos que sean una hamaca, un lugar para volver a la hora. Koanga es música hecha para sentir, agradecer y recordar que la vida sucede únicamente acá.
Que se escuche el zapucay, te quiero ver bailando. Que se escuche el zapucay, la vida celebrando. Venimos del Paraguay, cantando y bailando. Venimos del Paraguay, tierra del encanto. Los paisajes de mi pueblo, las andanzas de mi abuelo, las costumbres de ese suelo suenan en una canción. Una fiesta paraguaya donde una polca no falla. Quédate, no te vayas, que ahora empieza la función. Que se escuche el zapucay, te quiero ver bailando. Que se escuche el zapucay, la vida celebrando. Venimos del Paraguay, cantando y bailando. Venimos del Paraguay, tierra del encanto. ¡Oh, oh! Más caminos por andar, mil historias que contar, cosas buenas por vivir, vale la pena seguir. La alegría de una nación, canto, baile y corazón, celebrando tradición, a mi tierra esta canción. Todos, que se escuche el zapucay, te quiero ver bailando. Que se escuche el zapucay, la vida celebrando. Venimos del Paraguay, cantando y bailando. Venimos del Paraguay, tierra del encanto. ¡Suena! Que se escuche el zapucay, te quiero ver bailando. Que se escuche el zapucay, la vida celebrando. Venimos del Paraguay, cantando y bailando. Venimos del Paraguay, tierra del encanto. Que se escuche el zapucay, te quiero ver bailando. Que se escuche el zapucay, la vida celebrando. Venimos del Paraguay, cantando y bailando. Venimos del Paraguay, tierra del encanto. Venimos del Paraguay, cantando y bailando. Venimos del Paraguay, tierra de mi encanto, tierra de mi encanto. ¡Suena! Pasa con mano otini arapona. Oyeron que para que, opura que y paguirá. Que poco ya es aña de con ajú. De cuacu va, ya bella yuhu. Ya vi taña nene tame, el porimbo yo ya ja. Y ante con ya cupa bella coño ni de pa. Ani bella ñonero, ani bella y coaí. Por el bella ma bota y mareteña de Paraguay. Para que me piden de Francia no pero haré. Como tu jale y me ñañe bate pa' vivir. Gente que se nieta y pues te vende a sabe. Coño yo en culpa peña y guay tío yo ni ve. Ya voy aña nene tame, de corimbo yo ya ja. Y ante coño en culpa peña y coño ni ve pa. Ani beña ñora y no, ani bella y cobaí. Corimbo ya va bota y vale. mañana en esta me, de ponimos yo de acá, y hace con el pape, tengo años vive pa, a nivel ñañona y no, a nivel ya y cobaí, con el peña papota y marete, ñane Paraguay.
Buenas noches, señor presidente de la República, Santiago Peña, distinguidas autoridades que nos acompañan esta noche, representantes de los 48 países que están reunidos aquí en esta hermosa tarde. Es un placer estar aquí en esta noche acompañándoles. Somos el grupo Tierra Adentro y les traemos nuestra música, les traemos todo eso que a nosotros los paraguayos nos enorgullece y nos hace sentir muy felices. Por supuesto, esta siguiente canción que viene a continuación justamente habla de eso, de sentirnos orgullosos de quienes somos. Esto se llama Soy Latino y suena para todos ustedes. ¡Vamos! ¡Sí! Compañero de mi ayer, he salido de mi casa para ser quien quiero ser. Voy sin visa y sin permiso, voy sin mapa en este andar. Soy la cura y el veneno, soy la tierra, soy la sal. Soy latino, soy de sangre caliente, yo no le temo a nada, porque mi madre reza por mí. Soy latino, soy de sangre caliente, porque mi madre reza por mí. ¡Hey! Como gente con coraje que adelante quiere ir, con sudor yo voy pintando por el mundo mi raíz. Un día podrás encontrarme por Madrid o Nueva York, pero mi corazón llevo a mi tierra con amor. Soy latino, soy de sangre caliente, yo no le temo a nada, porque mi madre reza por mí. Soy latino, soy de sangre caliente, yo no le temo a nada, porque mi madre reza por mí. ¡Hey! Reza porque saben que su nombre voy cantando, y a los latinos voy representando. Tengo sangre caliente y tengo el sol, como si me pongo corazón. Mueve, mueve, cuerpo mueve, goza, goza, gózalo. Y a Diosito y verás que la vida más sabrosa. Latinoamérica nací, crecí, voy regando por el mundo mi raíz. Somos gente buena, así de un inmenso corazón, de un espíritu feliz, de una gran disposición de sonreír, de darlo todo por el todo y de surgir con trabajo. No me relajo, para llegar arriba hay que empezar desde abajo. Soy latino, soy de sangre caliente, yo no le temo a nada, no, porque mi vieja reza por mí. Soy latino, soy de sangre caliente, yo no le temo a nada, porque mi madre reza por mí. ¡Hey! ¡Ay, tierra adentro! ¡Latino soy! ¡Soy latino! Soy latino, soy de sangre caliente, yo no le temo a nada, porque mi madre reza por mí. Muchas gracias. Gracias por esa energía, gracias por sus aplausos. A continuación, queremos saludar muy respetuosamente a la mujer paraguaya
y por su intermedio a todas las damas que nos acompañan en esta hermosa tarde y por supuesto a todas las mujeres del mundo. Queremos hacer un homenaje a las flores que engalanan este hermoso jardín aquí en la República del Paraguay, Asunción, madre de ciudades. ¡Suena! Entre las flores que engalanan mi jardín, sos la más linda paraguaya secamba. Yo te idolatro, mujercita guaraní, y entre suspiros voy diciendo no importa. Por eso quiero pregonar en mi cantar toda la dicha que me brinda tu querer. Hoy más que nunca sueño ser tu compañero y vivir siempre a tu lado, paraguaya mi porá. De tu boca deliciosa libaré la dulce miel, al clamar tus labios se conembaé. Formaremos nuestro nido y serás tú la mujer, compañera buena, dueña de todo mi ser. Sí, señor. Y que viva la mujer paraguaya y todas las mujeres del mundo. Y si mañana llegan los rayos del sol, a nuestra dicha con su umbral reflejar, con mi guitarra cantaremos al amor y a los que sufren para mitigar su mal. No habrá tristeza alrededor de nuestro hogar, tú siempre alegre y yo dichoso te diré. Cuánto te quiero, paraguaya, mi adorada, mujercita idolatrada, dueña de todo mi ser. De tu boca deliciosa libaré la dulce miel, al clamar tus labios se conembaé. Formaremos nuestro nido y serás tú la mujer, compañera buena, dueña de todo mi ser. Compañera buena, dueña de todo mi ser. Muchas gracias. Bueno, la fiesta es el motivo para reunirnos, para pasarla bien. Y si hay algo que los paraguayos sabemos hacer, es fiesta. Es por eso que queremos compartir con ustedes esta canción que se llama La gente pide fiesta y todo el mundo a bailar arriba. Esto recién empieza, nos quedamos hasta cerrar. Que nadie ponga excusas de que debe trabajar. La gente siempre pide, toquen algo para bailar. Cuando suena algo lento, la cara empieza a cambiar. Por eso hoy vinimos a celebrar. No tenemos motivos, pero siempre hay que brindar. Por eso hoy vinimos a bailar. Lo que la gente pide, tierra siempre va a tocar. La gente pide fiesta y fiesta le vamos a dar. Eso no va a cambiar, hay mucho por bailar. La gente pide fiesta y fiesta le vamos a dar. Eso no va a cambiar, hay mucho por bailar. ¡Eso! Invita más al que sabe bailar. Esto recién empieza, nos quedamos hasta cerrar. Que nadie ponga excusa de que debe trabajar. Por eso hoy vinimos a celebrar. No tenemos motivos, pero siempre hay que brindar. Por eso hoy vinimos a bailar. Lo que la gente pide, tierra siempre va a tocar. La gente pide fiesta y fiesta les vamos a dar. Eso no va a cambiar, hay mucho por bailar. La gente pide fiesta y fiesta les vamos a dar. Eso no va a cambiar, hay mucho por bailar. La gente pide fiesta y fiesta les vamos a dar. Eso no va a cambiar, hay mucho por bailar. La gente pide fiesta y fiesta les vamos a dar. Eso no va a cambiar, hay mucho por bailar. La gente pide fiesta y fiesta les vamos a dar. Eso no va a cambiar, hay mucho por bailar. La gente pide fiesta y fiesta les vamos a dar. Eso no va a cambiar, hay mucho por bailar.
Claro que sí. Seguimos con la fiesta entonces, porque hay algo que caracteriza a Latinoamérica entera y es la fiesta patronal. Por eso llega la fiesta patronal de Tierra Adentro. ¡Arriba! ¡Oh, Ahora sí, necesitamos de todo el mundo. Everybody, con las palmas arriba. Vamos, va, 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 va. Eso. Todo el mundo. No se nada de espanto que nadie se va a morir. Si la vida te fue ingrata, algo más linda de venir. Por fin abriste los ojos, por fin vas a ser feliz. No te olvides de elegir a un hombre caballeroso, apuesto respetuoso, que le gusta ir a bailar siempre a la fiesta patronal. Un hombre caballeroso, apuesto respetuoso, que le gusta ir a bailar siempre a la fiesta patronal. ¡Vamos todos! Por si no te diste cuenta, hoy te quiero confesar. Contigo empecé a soñar. ¿Por qué me miras tan raro si esto es algo normal? Podré cumplir con las cosas que te tuve que explicar. Soy un hombre caballeroso, apuesto respetuoso, que le gusta ir a bailar siempre a la fiesta patronal. Un hombre caballeroso, apuesto respetuoso, y estas dos cosas son las que no te van a faltar. Que te cante una canción, quien te quiera sin temores, porque la vida se vive de momentos y emociones. Quien te cante una canción, quien te quiera sin temores, porque la vida se vive de momentos y emociones. Apuesto respetuoso, que le gusta ir a bailar siempre a la fiesta patronal. Un hombre caballeroso, apuesto respetuoso, y estas dos cosas son las que no te van a faltar. Que te cante una canción, que te quiera sin temores, porque la vida se vive de momentos y emociones. Que te cante una canción, que te quiera sin temores, porque la vida se vive de momentos y emociones. Caballeroso, apuesto respetuoso, que le guste ir a bailar siempre a la fiesta patronal. Gracias, obrigado, aguillé. Muy bien, muchas gracias de todo corazón a esta asamblea de gobernadores del Banco Interamericano de Desarrollo por darnos esta hermosa oportunidad de poder traerles un poco de nuestra música, un poco de nuestras raíces,
de nuestra danza, de nuestra cultura. Nos sentimos muy honrados de estar aquí. Muchísimas gracias por esos aplausos. Y con la siguiente canción queremos despedirnos haciendo un homenaje a los paisajes naturales y sentimentales de este Paraguay, que les abre las puertas de todos los corazones de los paraguayos. Por supuesto, son siempre bienvenidos aquí. Esto se titula Viajando Voy y suena y dice así, ¡vamos! Viajando voy, yo por mi pueblo, que me dibujen sus paisajes, sentimientos de una nación que no se achica, que te recibe con la sopa y con la chipa. ¡Vamos! Viajando voy, yo por mi pueblo, que me dibujen sus paisajes, sentimientos de una nación que no se achica, que te recibe con la sopa y con la chipa. Patria de héroes y caballeros, que al saludar siempre se quitan el sombrero, que al despertar van rumbo al alba con esperanza porque el pueblo no descansa. Orgulloso de decirte, soy de raza guaraní. Esta es mi tierra, este es mi canto, es la alegría de sentir que tengo tanto. No me alcanza el mundo entero para cambiar que yo soy parte de este suelo. Patria de héroes y caballeros, que al saludar siempre se quitan el sombrero, y al despertar van rumbo al alba con esperanza porque el sueño no descansa. Orgulloso de decir, soy de raza guaraní. Esta es mi tierra, este es mi canto, es la alegría de sentir que tengo tanto, que no me alcanza el mundo entero para cambiar que yo soy parte de este suelo. Esta es mi tierra, este es mi canto, es la alegría de sentir que tengo tanto, que no me alcanza el mundo entero para cambiar que yo soy parte de este suelo. Un aplauso para el grupo Cobé. Gracias, queridos bailarines y bailarinas. Gracias a todos ustedes. Y no se olviden que Paraguay siempre les abre las puertas de su corazón. Gracias a todos. Pero ahora necesitamos las palmas. Todo el mundo, vamos. Palmas, palmas, palmas. ¡Hey, hey, hey, hey! ¡Eso! Y dice: esta es mi tierra, este es mi canto, es la alegría de sentir que tengo tanto, que no me alcanza el mundo entero para cambiarte. Yo soy parte de este suelo. Esta es mi tierra, este es mi canto, es la alegría de sentir que tengo tanto, que no me alcanza el mundo entero para cambiarte. Yo soy parte de este suelo. Viajando yo por mi pueblo, que me dibujan sus paisajes. Agüillé, sentimiento. Muchas gracias. Thank you. Obrigado. Muchas gracias. Agüillé.
Muchas gracias a los queridos amigos de Tierra Adentro. Ahora, a continuación, invitamos a los gobernadores o jefes de delegación, al presidente Peña y al presidente Goldfein, a tomarse la foto oficial en la escalinata del escenario. Mientras, solicitamos al público permanecer sentados, si así lo eligen. Muchas gracias. Muchas gracias a todos por su presencia y de esta manera ya damos por concluida la sesión. Muy buenas tardes a todos y sean siempre muy bienvenidos al Paraguay. Muchas gracias, buenas tardes.
Gracias.